Hello, bonjour, welcome to another Nezzo's Bad Shop video. This is something a little different. This is I haven't really picked a name for this, this type of video, but it's going to be building tips, setup notes, interesting things along the journey of the assembly, stuff like that. And particularly, I'm starting this type of video series, genre, whatever, with the MD 1.0, the new Yokomo car that is the successor to the YD2. And, well, here it is, it's built. You can see that it is a complete redesign. It looks nothing like the YD2, even though there are some similar parts, such as the big bore shocks, the differential, the gears, spur gear, things like that. Let me flip it around for you so you can get a view of the other side here. You're, you're looking at it here on my workbench, here at my place, and yeah, I just finished building it, and I like the construction. I like the way it looks overall. It's interesting, different. The way things are adjusted are different. That will be more explained in a comparison video, and more of like a trackside type thing. This is more of the build, the setup notes, things that I discovered along the way, and you know, how to apply things such as addendum notes, which you've got to pay attention to that. And since this is the first batch of the first version of the MD 1.0, the very first release, so to say, there's definitely going to be a few little mistakes or things missed along the way, which there was, and that's to be expected. So this type of videos are designed to help you along your build as you build it, and if you kind of get stumped or things don't make sense, when you're putting it together or after you put it together, you can come to a video like this, reference certain steps or areas, and figure out what happened or what went wrong or what you missed, or is there something missing out of your box, which I did think at one point, but I actually interpreted the addendum wrong because I wasn't paying attention, and I figured out what I did. So here we go. So there's the car, as you see. Yep, just you get a good look at that. Pretty neat. Check out the underside. Different, right? You know, it's gonna be neat. So there's gonna be more videos, way more videos coming. Trackside comparisons, driving videos, onboards, like all that stuff. And I can tell you, at least just for quick sake, this is what it looks like with the suspension all compressed and boingy. Yay. Boing, 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 boing. Of course, they also don't tell you how much shock preload to put in. They never have. I don't know why, even on the YD2, so that's going to be up to me. But this is how it is with no preload, and particularly no electronics. I got to pick electronics set for this. There will be a Bad Shop servo going there. That's for sure. Anyways, let me move that out of the way. Now, the addendum. First things first. This is important because you're going to need to pay attention for the few pieces that need to go in certain areas. I've done some notes. I'll explain them as I go, so don't worry. But yes, this is important. And as I said in my unbox, this whole separate screw bag with a bunch of numbered bags for the screws, and you gotta pick. I'll explain it. But basically, I don't like this. This is extra work. This is extra work. Because they used to put all the particular screws you needed for each step inside of the step bag. So bag number 1 for step 1 or whatever it was, or assembly 1, whatever. All the screws were in there that you needed. You moved on. The next bag had all its screws. This is just extra work. You may get more acquainted to the type of screws, but it's just more work. It's not really that efficient. I know what they were going for, but it wasn't that efficient. Anyways, here's the manual. We will go through this step by step. That's diff oil, actually. It's the diff oil bottle right there. It leaked on the manual. Yes, anyway, so you will need tools, blah, blah, blah. Pay attention. Make sure you got your tools. As you see, I got my whole set of building tools right here. And we go straight in. So I'm just going to briefly go through each step. I'm not going to explain them a whole ton unless there's the build notes that I made along the way or things to look forward to. First things first, the diff. It comes pre-assembled, so you unscrew the screws, fill it full of oil. Pay attention on the fill length. I'm gonna get the shadow in there. Pay attention to the fill length, okay, or fill height. And that's a straightforward, put it back in, bolt it in a star pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. That's simple, straightforward. So you don't have to do any of this stuff. It's already done for you. Just fill it full of oil, put it back together. Just like a YD2. It's pretty much the same diff. The only major difference between the YD2 and this is number 5,000 oil. 5,000. The YD2s were 10,000. So that's the only other difference, is lighter oil. And then moving on, gearbox assembly. So we move straight into gearbox assembly. The YD2s, you would start building stuff straight on the chassis plate. This car is more modular. You build the rear end first, then the front end, then you put them together on the chassis plate. It's kind of neat. So anyways, build the gearbox. Pretty straightforward. Pay attention to here. Put it in the right spot. And assemble the bearings and the gears and the shaft, top shaft, input shaft. Remember to put some oil in the bearings if you like. I always like to, a couple drops of oil. Particularly, I've been using the Yokomo drift oil, the super thin stuff. Dab, 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 away you go. And after you do that, you move on to the completed assembly there. That from the last step. Add some more pieces, a bearing, and put some oil on it. This, pay attention, because this input shaft goes straight through this, and these screws go through the motor plate, through this large aluminum spacer top shaft holder, and a bearing goes inside of that, and all together it goes. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward as well. So just get a better holding on the camera. Pay attention as well to the holes, okay, where this is. And after that, this is where I had to stare at this for quite some time. I'm going to get the chassis back here, but see how this says note position and note how this installs. The way they've illustrated this, it boggles the mind a tiny bit, and there is indents here and stuff like that. But basically, what threw me, and I tried it a couple different ways, and I could only get it in this one way, which I think everyone else did. And see how that is to the bottom right hand corner of the way this is noting position, bottom right hand corner. No matter what I did, I can only get it in what looks like the top right hand corner. And I don't know if it was just me or my brain not working properly, but literally that was the only way I got everything to fit in nicely, correctly, and without hassle. So that's how I put mine in. 3 in the front, 2 in the back, and then on the other side, yeah, 3 in the front, 2 in the back. The numbers on that piece. That's how I did mine. And here, see, they don't even write the numbers on here. It would have been helpful, so they don't, but that's how I did mine. So I'll do another, you'll see it more in the other videos. But yeah, basically this is showing it towards the bottom, but the part actually is towards the top. There's no way to make this part look like this with that hole at the bottom. I did it for quite a while. Flip-flopped it, and nothing worked until I did it the way I just showed you in the car. So just pay attention to that. It will boggle your mind a little, but you'll want the flattest side to go on the bottom diff cover right there. Okay, that's the biggest key. Once I got that, it popped right in. No worries. Moving on. Spur gear cover, adapter and assembly, straightforward. Don't tighten it too tight, but nice and snug. Make sure to put the set screw on the flat part of the input shaft, the top shaft. Done. Okay, not too difficult. Just take your time, no rush, you know. When you rush, you miss things, and I did this too. So, not that I was rushing, but it's just sometimes you think you've read everything on the instruction step, and sometimes you just miss it, or you misjudge a certain size of screw. That happens all the time. This is straightforward. Install the rear shock tower. It's funny how they call this a shock tower, but everything bolts to the bulkheads, front and rear. So bolt those pieces on, and with any screw going into a metal part, aluminum part, I like to put dab of Loctite. Dab of Loctite on the screw thread, and that just holds the car together a little better, especially this part, shock ball end. And that's a set screw, so set screw it half, and then a little dab of Loctite, set screw that ball. That inner set screw is a 1.5 mil, as it shows there. See, 1.5 mil hex. The end hole there, the outside hole, outer hole, 3 mil. Okay, and these ones are 2. So this is to help you. Hex 2 mil, 3 mil, 1.5 mil. I forgot to mention that in the first few steps. But that's what that is. So that's straightforward. Moving on. ESC plate, 4 screws. Weight goes right onto the back of the bulkheads. Done. Oh, I forgot to mention back here. Where was it? Yeah, here. That piece right there. It goes into into that section right here. It goes in there without screws, and you don't put screws in it until you install this piece, the suspension arm mounts with the ball, the suspension balls, and the suspension ball holders. So once you do the ESC one, yeah, you move down here, and this is pretty neat because the way you mount the screw based in the screw slot, it will dictate your toe angle change. So that's kind of neat. But I thought about it; it's kind of limited. So I have a feeling like limited in adjustment at the moment. So I have a feeling there'll be more option lower suspension arm mounts coming out that'll give us more adjustment and or an active. Who knows? But this is kind of cool. This is, when I first saw this design, a bunch of things jumped out at me as race car style, like touring car, particularly. I mean on-road off-road, but I saw a lot of touring car type stuff coming back, especially these suspension ball type holders, pillow ball style, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward too. Just pay attention that they want the screws on the outer side of the arm, so all the way to the outer part. So basically they're asking for 1 degree of toe, 1 degree toe in, I think. And yeah, moving on. Where are we now? Okay, yes, so build the rear arm, doesn't take long, suspension mount inside of it, and install it to the suspension ball holder pieces there. Slide it right in, and an E-clip. And when I saw these E-clips, I thought, yeah, race car styles. Grippy car, so grippy car styles. It's just they're adapting different suspension type to the drift game. There's been a few chassis that have kind of something like this, stuff like this, but essentially over here, like you see on the next page over, I'm skipping a step, but the next page over, you see how all this is bolted straight to the bulkhead, so it's like it's a modular member. I call it modular because in race car land, eventually chassis, a long time ago, but it feels like a long time ago now. We're getting towards the end of 2022 here. This, yeah, so if you wanted to just inspect your entire front or rear end on your race car, 5 or 6 screws or whatever, the whole assembly comes right off, and you can just do everything aside from the rest of the car. Or some people would literally swap a different rear end with different settings just for testing, etc. So that's why I think that's why they've gone with this. But it's neat, it's different, and crucially, I think being as well as all in one, it's keeping everything tighter together. They're trying to keep the center of gravity a little lower. I think. This is what my thinking when I was staring at it. But anyways, going back, the rear hub carrier assembly. This is all pretty straightforward, just like a YD2. It's literally the YD2 rear SX style rear knuckle. Now, one major thing that when someone early on was building this, they mentioned that the the knuckle hits the lower arm when it's compressed, when it's on compression in the suspension movement. Someone pointed out to me, it was Sebastian, the owner of Elite. He pointed out to me that that person may have overlooked this right here. This says, due to the touching of the lower arm, the suspension arm file away the gray shaded area. I have done that. I did do that. So if I get the car, and can you see it? Not really. I did do it though. There we go. There we go. Let's see. I put it up to the light. Can you see how I've shaved it? It's not round on the bottom there. I don't know if you can actually. Can I put it up to the light? You can kind of see it right there. See it? It's not round anymore. It's flat on the backside near the large bearing. I did that. So yes, I shaved it like that and just used my utility knife, put a nice fresh blade on it and chopped it like it's a tomato. But, you know, a little slow, just got her good. Just take your time, shave little bits off it, because you don't want to take a massive chunk and then screw up the knuckle. It's kind of like filing away metal. You can only take it away, you can't really put it back. So, yeah. make sure to pay attention to that, and then that will help for the suspension. And after that, bolt the assembly into the lower arm, which is kind of neat. It assembles on the underside and is pressed in rather than held in rather than pressed in across the lower arm like previous car. Okay, and then after that, yeah, bolt it in place, 2 screws, and then assemble some turnbuckles, note the position of the ball cup, and press them in place, and away we go. Note to use the ball stud M, the medium size. And continuing on, rear shock tower, or sorry, rear body mount plate. So this is for to mount your body post or your magnets off of. So that's that, pretty straightforward. And I forgot to explain at the beginning of the video. Yeah, so every single screw, most of the screws and stuff you need is in this screw bag up here. To do that, see how it says here, parts used on this page, this screw. So basically I need, for this step, 2 screws, right? Simple. So we need a M3x6, part number ZCF36-A. Okay. So, parts used on that page. Now, over here, you got to figure out which one that is and which bag it resides in. So it's a tiny screw, 3x6, M3x6. Oh look, M3x6 ZCF36-A. Yay, bag number 1. Yay, screw bag number 1. Hello, and then you take it out. It's just extra work. Whereas previously, the steps, even like this, all these screws, these things right here, were in this same bag, in bag number 7. Why? You gotta make me dumpster dive over here to another section of my bench that I had to lay out all these bags so I could easily access them. It's just, anyways. So, make sure when if you go to the parts used on this page, you just pay attention what goes in where, because this is even sillier at this point. At this part, I started to realize things like part used on this page, M3 nut, okay, the same screw is up above the F36A, okay, and then the BH310A, 310A, alright. The nuts actually came in bag number 7. There's no nuts referenced anywhere here. Cool. That's in there, and then B310-A, bag number 6. Yay, bag number 6. Okay, way to go. What's even sillier, somewhere I wrote a note, somewhere later on in the manual, they put a part number for parts used in the step, and the part number listed in this part doesn't match here, but the size of the screw matches, and that's how you match it up. And so I thought, okay, if you're gonna make me go over to a next screw bag listing chart table of contents, get the part numbers right. I think I'll remember when it shows up, so I'll try to remember that. But yeah, like they did this with the ZX series, I think with the ZX, and I was like, why? So anyways, slide rack. This is a redesigned slide rack, and we come to the first addendum. Okay, the first use of the addendum sheet here. Now it says, notice the ball stud S used on P10, i.e. page 10 and page 13 of the instruction manual is in bag number 11. Okay, and that's ball stud S. So what they're asking you to do is this one right here, ball stud S, that goes into that piece. Do they show another? It's this right here, that ball stud that ends up right there. That you will find in bag number 11, which this is part bag number 11, so like the overall part bag. It's in overall part bag 11. They've put in 2 more of these into part bag 11. Okay, or they had 2 extras in there, whatever it was, and they forgot to move them, or whatever happened. So make sure when you're on page 10 and you come to step 12, you use ball stud S. So this is the first use of it, okay? The next use is on page 13, and that's a couple pages next over, so we will come back to that. That's where you find that, and the rest of it is straightforward, but just pay attention because there's this bearing bushing, they're calling it bearing, it looks like a collar, and that's what holds the bearings on for the new slide rack. And here, there's this is a screw and the bushing, and then this is its own bearing shaft, with a washer, okay? Now in my kit, I've put a note here. This washer says here it's supposed to be in bag number 7. I did not find it in bag number 7. I did not see it anywhere. It never fell on the floor, anything. I found the washer I needed in screw bag number 12, which is right here. So screw bag number 12, this one, has these washers. They give you one extra of most of these, pretty much all these screws. So I think there was like 4 of these bigger ones and 2 of these. So I've left with 1 big one, 1 small one. So this is where I found it. And I don't know what happened there, if they didn't notice that or whatever, but I noticed that. So if you are missing this washer in the slide rack in step 12, bag number 7, you can find one, or find the one in screw bag number 12, okay? Moving on. Step number 13. This is where one of the first builders acknowledged that there is an issue with this carbon bracket here. One of these sets of holes, I forget which side, but one of them is oversized. I made the note that it's oversized to the point that when you try to seat the ball stud into this middle-ish hole, when you try to seat it in there and leave it in there, well, it's supposed to sit in there, like, not stiff, but it's supposed to sit in there nicely and not be able to move around. Because the holes were oversized or overdrilled, oversized hole, the ball stud moves around a lot. Like, it just flops around. So until you tighten it in that middle position, it's going to flop around. But what I'm going to tell you is put the one side that fits in properly, put that in tight, screw it in, put the other side in that's oversized hole just loose, don't tighten it, then put the upper arm onto both ball studs with the one side that's loose in the bracket, screwed, not tightened, still loose. Install this, snap it in place, then tighten up that last ball stud, because if you do it the other way where you tighten all these ball studs first, this is going to bind and it will be very stiff when it moves, and that will affect your suspension. You don't want this, you want this. You want floppy, you want free, you want it to be moving freely, so we got all the suspension movement and flex. Okay, so make sure to pay attention to that. So it looks like it was a manufacturing issue where the holes were drilled too big. I don't think they did that on purpose. If they did, they better speak up, because I don't know why they would do that. They better have a good explanation. So anyways, that's that. I'm going to make a note of that. That was one of the first things somebody noticed when they were of the parts, that is. The rest of the parts have been pretty good fit and finish wise, like up until that point. So other than that, you bolt it in place. Make sure when you bolt it in place to pay attention to the hole position. And other than that, move on. Shock tower, front shock tower, screw it onto the front end assembly. The shock ball ends and set screws, just like in the rear, same thing. Loctite, screw in the set screw, a little bit more Loctite, screw on the shock tower, or the ball stud, sorry. Shock ball end, that's what they call it. That is a 1.5 as it shows. The end of the shock ball end is a 3 mil. Excuse me. Alright, step 15. Front chassis assembly. Now this is where you start marrying up shortly the slide rack assembly to this, what is essentially like the upper deck, kind of. It's called front chassis. It's like the upper deck, not entirely, but it's sort of that front servo mount brace. We'll just call it the front chassis. It's a little late, so running out of talent and energy, but it's okay. This is an aluminum piece. That's nice. So yeah, mount that up there, screw it in, make sure you get the right screws. Mount that together, straightforward. That is for your servo, if you're going to do your servo right away. I'm going to wait and do all my electronics at once. So I put the screws and the washers in the holes, loosely secure, snug them up just so the screws are there, so I don't have to hunt them down in the box later. They're just there, ready to go. And if we look in the chassis, see, they're in there, ready to go. So I don't have to worry about hunting them down later. Moving on. Servo horn installation. Step 16. See this? See this? How it says shadows. See this? it does say 1mm cut. It says cut one piece. I ended up cutting both ball cups. It's the shortest one. It's just trimming 1mm off so you can make the 27mm spec that they want here. I know Seb from Elite, he said, it should be okay. He told me when he was building his, should be okay. I didn't cut it, I put it, and no matter what he did, he couldn't make 27. It was tight or whatever it was, so you have to trim it. You must cut it, must trim it, okay? Do it. And then, ball stud S. See this? See addendum notice? I wrote this. Ball stud S. What page are we on? Page 13. Addendum, right? Page 10 and page 13, ball stud S times 2. So the first one was on page 10, second one's on page 13. This is it right here. That goes in the servo horn. So make sure to take that from bag number 11. So I opened bag number 11, kept it aside, and that was straightforward. So that's the first part of the 3-part addendum complete. Okay. And then install onto your servo. Make sure you use the right adapter, plastic servo teeth adapter piece, okay, to fit your servo. There's 3 types, and make sure your servo is centered before putting the horn on. Basically, power up your system, radio and everything. Gyro if you want. I do it without gyro so the thing doesn't move all over. The servo doesn't move all over the place. Power the servo up, center it at 0 on your transmitter, stick your horn on as center as possible to get as center as the wheels will go, and then bolt it in place, and then you'll probably just have to trim it a bit on your radio. Simple. That's the basic way of doing it. Probably make a video one day of that as well. Suspension ball installation, just like the rear, do it for the front. Pay attention to the position. And these holes were all straightforward. They weren't oversized or anything, so that was good. And yeah, other than that, that's pretty straightforward. Next, here. Now, step 18. Camera's getting a little toasty. I'm holding it. And then a little GoPro. Where are we at here? See addendum notice. Yeah, I wrote this because set screw. I was trying to figure out, please use parts below. They forgot to write here what page and what step or whatever. So I wrote page 14, step 18. Step 18, it's the set screw for the lower arm rod for ball cup. Ball cup rod, turnbuckle rod. What do they call it? Lower arm adapter. Okay, so for the lower arm adapter, the set screw here is found on the addendum, and it should be that's the parts that's stapled here in the little baggie. These 2 parts. Okay, that's that. And if you're wondering the 17mm, how long that is, I got shadows, eh? How long that is, I drew this after I measured it out. So if you use the notches, it's the 4th long notch in. See that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4th long notch. That's essentially where it is. And if you look down here on this, you will just see it. The light is not cooperating with me. Not very well, eh? I gotta figure that out. Look at my fucking shadows. Anyways, if you look here, you'll see 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one's buried in the arm, like just in the drawing. It's 4 long. This is the 4 long notches. Yeah, so that's that. And then E-clips to install it. Moving on. Build some turnbuckles, straightforward. Use a caliper to get your best distance. I forgot to say that earlier. Use a caliper, zero it out, and then do your thing. Was that 12 millimeters, right? 12 millimeters, and go. That's the best way to do it. This, I can't remember if they made this as 1-to-1 or lifelike. It says 1-to-1, it's pretty close. If you don't have one, that should be aight. It should be working. Should be okay. Now, step 20. Install your build your front knuckles. Note the position of the knuckle as you build it. I've built mine with the stoppers for now. I want to see what it's like out of box. And yes, this. Oh, okay, right. And then see addendum notice. This brings me to the bottom part of the addendum notice. The following parts are used on in the instruction manual, page 15. Page 15, drive pin. And the drive pin was, I think, also in here. in the part thing up here, I think. Can't remember. It was yeah, it was in here, or it was another spot. But anyways, that is for step 20. Supposed to be in bag 11, but it never made it into bag 11, so I think it ended up in the parts in the little stapled baggie up there. That's where that is. So that's the bottom part, yet we still have this one, which I'm about to explain. You can see the note, but this is the last screws. I was like, where do these go? And why did they give them to me? Because it still hasn't been explained. Yeah, so just make sure you build that correctly. Pay attention how the pin goes. Attach the servo horn to the slide rack here when you marry it to the slide rack assembly to the front. Well, geez, what did we call this? The front chassis plate. Then install your knuckles, note to positions. Snap, snap, snap. Moving on, we're getting close to the end. 21 bumper installation, straightforward. Note that the countersunk screws are underneath the car on the underside. Okay, note that. Straightforward. Battery holder, pretty straightforward. Just take your time. Make sure to put the O-ring here so that those slide, because those will slide side by side with the O-ring. It's nice. It reminds me of the Reeve D. Pretty cool. Okay, right. I have a star here. What did I do? Right. Okay, check this out. This is what I was saying, Yokomo. If you're gonna give me this sheet, make sure you do proofreading and stuff. It says here, parts used in this page. ZC F2510 is a M2.5 times 10. Okay, and I need 4 of them. I put a star because, well, on here, ZC F2510, it doesn't exist. There's no part number here that says that. What does exist is MD118BH. That's a 2.5 by 10. 2.5 by 10. FH screw, 4. Small mistake, but I do remember this from the ZX, that this was also a thing. Part numbers were not matching, even though the screws and the size is correct. The part number's wrong. So either they changed it, or I don't know, but hey, don't stop confusing us. But I am here to tell you that's what's up and how to go about that. Yes, because, well, we're all human. Accidents, mistakes do happen, but it's like some of them is like, oh, come on. All right, where are we here? So this is, all right, so that was the finishing up here of the front modular assembly. This is now starting the chassis plate with the battery holder, and like I was explaining that. And then you then start marrying the rear end and the front end to the chassis. So straightforward, some pieces. There's no right or wrong way to do that piece in terms of there's no up or down orientation or whatever. Bolt it all together, away you go. And then down here, front end assembly, bolt it onto the chassis. Next, over here is where we finally get the last piece of the addendum. Da 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 da. Now, I put stars and arrows here because they ask you for 6 of these screws, the BH36A M3x6. By the time you get here, bag 15 or bag whatever, bag 6, here, wherever it is you're getting these last screws, you don't have enough. You're short by 1 because they give you an extra here, so technically you have 5, but you don't have enough. The last 2 are in the addendum right here, page 18, step 24. You will get the last 2 screws from the addendum sheet, and then you can put them here. Then you still have a spare in your wonderful bag of screws. And then that completes the addendums. Hooray! So that's that. That was how my chassis assembly went. Once you get to this point, step 24, your chassis should be mostly assembled, save for a few pieces. Build a big bore, shock set. It's nice that they gave us the optional, Yokomo gave us the optional Yokomo springs. It's nice that they're telling us to use the long shock top hats, the long extended ones on the top side all around. That's nice. What I don't like is front and rear oil 200-300. They've been doing this forever. And on the new Z Plastic, they gave us 50 weight, so I don't know what happened there. Why that's still a thing with the oil, but okay. And yeah, no indication of preload setting. Just just put the collar at the top and go. So, okay. But every YD2, even the previous predecessor, every YD2, they never told us how much preload to put in the shock. Just the oil, and then sometimes they said use the long hat, not always. Standard 4-hole piston for the big bore. All big bore standardized hardware, but the latest versions of it, they give you the pink diaphragm, they give you the blue O-ring, which is nice. So that's good. So it's the latest version of big bore, and once I filled them with oil, put the caps on with the bladders, diaphragm bladders, the first time they were perfect right away, bled themselves perfect. So the latest versions do work really nicely, go together nicely, so I'm happy about that. Install the shocks, straightforward, you're almost done now. Oh, and it comes with the bag 16, use bag 16's long ball stud for that. Bag 17, body post. I made a small note because they say cut it 7mm short here, and it'll look like that. I did that, it looks like that. Where's my, there we go, looks like that. That is, I believe, to retain the most correct YD2 post geometry in the back here by cutting this down. It makes these holes line up exactly where they would go on the YD2. I think that's what they did there. I don't know for sure, but I think that's what's up. I'll test it at some point, but I'm pretty sure that's why they did that. And crucially, you notice this looks just like that. Yeah, you need the front body post and then another set of front body posts, and they give it to you. So in bag 17, they give you the ye old YD2 bumper set times 2, because this bumper, this mold bag, whatever, comes like this and your body posts front and rear. So after you do the body posts, you end up with 2 bumper sets, 2 extra bumper sets, and 2 sets of rear body posts. And if you're a track mechanic like me, those rear body posts, that's going to come in handy. Plastic bumpers, even still a bit of a bonus. I made myself a separate foam front bumper with foam and body posts, just straight assembly, so when putting on brand new bodies, I could just bolt that onto someone's car, line their body up real quick, drill the holes or whatever I had to do, and then take my bumper assembly off that I use for mock-up, take it off and put it back in the toolbox. And that saved me because a lot of people's body posts were bent or warped or too short, so then I had like nice brand new body posts to work with. Well, that's that. Body posts, way go. You can put these body mount holdery thingies on if you want. I never do. After that, it's just straight electronics. Put your receiver in. I never usually use the antenna holder. I just kind of give my antenna on the receiver little loops because it's 2.4 gigahertz. It doesn't have to stand tall in the air, but I mean, it helps, but you don't really have to do that. ESC goes on the back, double-sided tape, straightforward. Custom, you have to do your own custom wiring because this is a high-end car. You got to put all your own electronics. Install the motor sold separately, we know that. Same with all the other electronics, but they do give you the 2 screws, and I have them here in the bag. 2 screws. And this down here, see this? I wrote this because they don't give you pinion gear. First time in 8 years, 2016, so it's more than 6 years. Every YD2 ever, I think they released, they gave you pinion gear. This one they don't. This isn't a YD2 though. This is MD1, but they don't give you flipping pinion gear. They do give you this long chart of options, but no pinion gear. All that money I spent, and I don't get a freaking pinion gear. Like, you know what I did get though? I did get stickers. Woo! So okay, you gave me a sticker sheet, you took away the pinion. We can't win. Why? You know what? I know it's okay. They gave me another. They gave the entry for Scuba Arena instead of opinion. All right. But does this help me run the car faster? No. Does this? No, it makes it prettier, but anyways. Just FYI, no pinion gear, so you're going to have to buy your own. Okay, and other than that, there really isn't any other build notes to tell you about. That's pretty much it. You do have some spare plastic bits here. As you know, the shock pieces, that's kind of common. This stuff I think is from one of the race cars or plastic versions of some of the parts that are on the car, but yeah, these are from I think some of the race car molds, the Yokomo race car molds. This one and this one. So we don't need those, and these are your Curvy Boy new ball cup version extras, which we might use for tuning later, but that's that. And I just have the clips here waiting to go on, a couple other spare pieces. I have a bunch of extra spare screws, and I think weren't used, some extra quantity, but generally there's one of each extra screw and washer thing on here. And this here, step 30 battery. This car is designed for a shorty lipo, a 1S form factor, aka what I've been calling a slim shorty. So 2S battery is like yay thick. Hold on, where's my camera? About that thick. A 1S is half the size. Well, you can buy a 2-cell lipo, 2S lipo, in a 1-cell form factor, and that's what this is. So if you own an MC1 or one of the newer YD2, the latest YD2s that require this, you already know about this, so that shouldn't be news to you. But anyone who is this your first car, you'll need this 1S Slim Shorty battery, and your local hobby shop or your drift buddy or whoever it is that's helping you get into this hobby can help you with that. And after that, it's just pick your own rims and tires, bolt them on, and you're done, because this is the exploded view, which is a quick parts reference guide. And one thing that I was surprised, and I was like, I'm looking for the setup sheet so I could fill stuff in or check out the factory setup, as sometimes they filled it in for you. Nothing here. So I wrote, setup sheet? No setup sheet, because after that, just memos and your warranty reg. That's that. So there it is. The setup notes, build tips, instructional helps, journey along the way, stuff I noticed that was a little interesting. So I gotta put electronics in it and send it tomorrow and get this video uploaded so y'all can get yours built and drift. Tell me what you think of the car and all that stuff, and yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it very, very much. Merci beaucoup to all those en français, all the boys out at Elite. We were just there, had a great time, a lot of fun, and hope to come out again. Yeah. Oh, and that's where I got this car, was Elite Drift Shop, our supplier for Strictly Sideways. And yeah, we have a good relationship. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, build tips, setup notes of the Yokomo MD1. And with that, I will check you soon. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.